Good morning. We have two people on Zoom, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, the Rules Committee is called to order. Secretary, please note the attendance. All right, are there any bills that we'll be separating out, Mr. Rules Attorney?
And Madam Chairman, I heard mention that it was thought that 2248 should be taken separately.
All right, any others?
I've heard none.
All right, 2248. All right, we will move the remaining bills in a mass motion. The chair recognizes Mr. Vice Chair to offer the mass motion for measures on the agenda.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that House Bill 2006, 2010, 2012, 2016, 2027, 2040, 2047, 2051, 2066, 2070, 2073, 2075, 2083, 2119, 2120, 2126, 2130, 2134, 2139, 2140, 2142, 2143, 2144, 2159, 2160, 2161, 2172, 2173, 2175, 2177, 2178, 2188, 2210, 2241, 2243, 2246, 2249, 2258, 2259, 2260, 2266, 2267, 2268, 2289, 2290, 2292, 2294, 2297, 2298, 2299, 2300, 2312, 2313, 2316, 2321, 2329, 2330, 2331, 2336, 2380, 2398, 2402, 2403, 2406, 2427, 2428, 2429, 2431, HCM 2001, HCR 2002, HCR 2003, HCR 2009, HCR 2014, HR 2002, and HR 2003 are constitutional and in proper form.
All right, Mr. Rules Attorney, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Tim Fleming from the Rules Attorney Office. Thank you. Yes, as reviewed each of these measures is the subject of mass motion, which are arguing that they're constitutional and in the proper form, and we're happy to answer your questions.
All right, thank you. Members, do you have any questions of the Rules Attorney? Okay, the question before you is to recommend the measures on the mass motion are constitutional and in proper form. Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Representative Biasucci?
Aye.
Speaker Bowers?
Aye.
Representative DeGrazia?
Aye.
You're on mute, Mr. DeGrazia.
Aye.
Mr. DeGrazia, how do you vote? Mr. DeGrazia votes yes.
Representative Epstein?
Yes, Mr. Epstein votes yes.
Representative Espinoza? Representative Toma?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Grantham?
Aye.
Chairman Nutt?
Yes. Okay, members, by your vote of 8 yeses, 0 noes, 0 present, 0 absent, you have passed this mass motion. I don't have to say all of them though. All right, they're constitutional and in proper form. All right, now we'll go back to 2248. Mr. Rules Attorney?
And Madam Chairman, probably we would normally have a bill moved first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Thank you.
All right, the chair recognizes the vice chair, Mr. Grantham, to move 2248.
Madam Chair, I move that House Bill 2248 is constitutional and in proper form.
All right, Mr. Rules Attorney?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And House Bill 2248, members, is a measure related to regulation of critical electric generation policies, and specifically renewable energy sources. And this bill creates a new statute that says essentially that notwithstanding any other law, The Corporation Commission may not adopt policies or rules or regulations or regulate the types of energy used required by public service corporations. And so we do have some concerns about this measure, Madam Chairman, members. Mainly, it's in the way the bill aims to preempt the Corporation Commission from acting within the scope of what we know is its permissive authority granted under Article 15, Section 3 of the state constitution. Under Article 15, the Corporation Commission and the legislature concurrently share permissive authority relating to regulating public health and safety. In a recent state Supreme Court case from this last summer, the Johnson Utilities case, the court better defined the roles of both the legislature and the Corporation Commission with regard to this shared authority that they have. And the takeaway from the Johnson case is to inform the consideration, I think, it does inform the consideration of this bill. Importantly, the case clarifies the distinction between two of the powers granted the Commission by the Constitution. In Article 15, Section 3. First is their rate-making power, and I don't think that anyone has ever doubted that their authority is exclusive in this regard. But second, to clarify that the scope of the Commission's permissive authority to make and enforce reasonable rules and regulations and orders for convenience, comfort, and safety, and the preservation of health of the employees and patrons of such corporations. It's that part of it that we think needs to be looked at most closely in this measure. Now, what House Bill 2248 does, or what it purports to do, is simply to preempt the Commission from exercising its preemptive authority. And this is likely problematic. And the reason is because while the legislature certainly can act within the scope of its police power to protect public health and safety, we don't believe the legislature can create a blanket prohibition on the Commission from it exercising its permissive authority to regulate public health and safety as well. Now, clearly, the legislative power can be used to enact policy on safety and quality standards for renewable energy, and the Johnson case confirms for us that when there is a conflict between the Commission regulating in that regard and the legislature, that the legislature's power is paramount in that regard. So it clarifies that for us. But the concern we have is that simply by preemptively saying the Commission cannot act, we think is a problem under the Johnson case. So the case says that the legislature has the power to essentially it has the power to decide finally what a rule will be in that regard, but it has to actually set forth and state what the policy is, I think. Now, just so that members are aware, we haven't found a case that expressly creates language like this that's been challenged that we can say for sure would be problematic under the Constitution in terms of these shared powers. But I think that our reading of the Johnson case, when you compare that to what's happening in this measure, I think that it leaves this bill being constitutionally doubtful. And I'm happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you, Tim. Am I supposed to, is that?
You're good.
Review with me then the powers that the court illuminated were relative to day-to-day procedures in a corporation, not necessarily the production of electricity.
Well, and Madam Chairman, Speaker Bowers, I think that what it was clearly focusing on was regulations that have to do with public health and safety, and that's the shared permissive role. And so if the legislature has not acted with regard to creating either a policy expressly in legislation or perhaps through a delegation of its legislative authority to an agency that oversees a particular kind of regulation, then the Commission, I think, is free to act within its permissive authority. But I think what this case says is that if the Commission has not acted, or if they have acted and then the legislature overrules them with a separate legislation expressly, it doesn't say that in the case, but that's what I think that it means, then the legislature's power is paramount. So it kind of seemed to me like the situation where, like, and I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but like in a family court case where, let's say, there's a divorce and the parents have shared decision-making over a minor child, and that if there is an inability to reach a decision, that mother or father has the final say. That's kind of how I read this to be with regard to the legislature having final say. But that's different, I think, than what this bill does, because I'm not sure that the case gives us the ability to believe that just because the legislature has final say, that it can make as its statement that the commission has no authority, unless it's the legislature's expressly providing for some sort of a policy.
If, Madam Chairman, Mr. Fleming, if the legislature dictated clearly what the authority was, would that be, I'll use the word acceptable, but
And Madam Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I think it could be. It depends on what the policy is, but I think what you have to be doing is essentially regulating public safety, et cetera, and all of those things through the enactment of policy.
well, Madam
Mr.
Chairman, Mr. Fleming, I'm thinking of the self-audit privilege law of some years back, where the legislature decided that certain actions of a corporation relative to revealing the results of a self-audit on its environmental outcomes could then relieve them of some burdens relative to enforcement. We took an action about the health and safety of a corporation, saying that if you did X, Y, Z, that you would be free of certain types of liability. And we did that on a corporation. Wouldn't that be kind of similar here, where we would say the regulations relative to the public health and safety of a utility would be under these types of regulations we would want purview of, and the rate-making authority, we would say that that would be strictly to the Corporation Commission. Would that be, if it was more clear as to what the decision or the area of oversight the legislature would carry versus something more general? You know, you just can't play in my sandbox. That.
Right, and Madam Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I think that that's definitely the way you want to look at analyzing a different approach to this, or perhaps an amendment approach to this, is by virtue of being specific about what things can or can't be done, that handles it in a way that isn't just the blanket statement, you can't play in my sandbox. So I agree that it certainly seems to me, as if I'm following you correctly, that's the manner of reasoning I think that should be employed in looking at possible options for other language.
All right. Madam Chairman, I wonder if you might hold this and let us have a week to get folks together and discuss this more in depth.
All
if we
right.
can find up some clarifying.
Thank you.
Would
Now,
be
does that,
appropriate?
thank you, yes, sir. Does that require can we just do an aye or an A, or
Well,
does it take a
and
roll
Madam
call?
Chairman, may I help with that?
Yes.
I was just going to suggest it could be done without objection, and if there was an objection, just a voice vote would
Okay.
probably solve it.
Thank you. Is there any objection to holding HB 2248 until next week? Yay? All those in favor?
You don't have to, there's
just
no
have to ask
objection.
Okay.
Way we go.
Thank you.
Hearing none.
Good.
Okay, hearing no objections, we will hold HB 2248.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. All right, members, seeing no further business to come before the committee is adjourned. Thank you.